UK Labour Party leader Keir Starmer has released his tax returns for the last 2 years. This comes after the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak released his much-awaited tax filings. The released documents show that the Labour leader has not earned much outside of his parliamentary income. Over the last 2 years, Starmer earned almost $338,000. He also earned around $122,000 from the sale of a property. In total, Starmer paid more than $145,000 in taxes. The findings also reveal that Starmer's tax rate is 10% more than Sunak's, which means he paid more than the UK Prime Minister. On the other hand, a Guardian report says that Sunak had benefited from more than $365,000 in tax savings. Starmer also announced that he would give up his tax-exempt status if he's elected as the Prime Minister in the next general election. He enjoys tax exemptions on contributions to his pension from his time as Director of Public Prosecutions. Sunak earned around $5.9 million, out of which more than $500,000 came from his MP and ministerial salary. The rest is attributed to the interest, dividends and capital gains on his US investment fund. The opposition Labour Party has raised big questions, claiming the filings reveal that the Prime Minister paid far lower taxes than working class people. This comes as Britons face the highest tax burden in nearly 70 years. Earlier, Sunak had to face a political storm after his wife, Akshata Murthy, daughter of the Infosys founder Narayana Murthy, saved millions of dollars on her UK tax bill by claiming non-dom status. This was when Sunak was serving as the UK Chancellor. But these latest filings have exposed inconsistencies in the UK tax regime, where capital gains are taxed at a much lower rate than income. Well, for more on this, we're joined by Mike Buckley, senior journalist and political commentator, joining us live from Sheffield in England. Mike, of course, it was bound to be pressure on Keir Starmer after Rishi Sunak released his tax details, and now we've seen Starmer's. What do you make of it?
Well, I think two things. I mean, one, I think this shows Keir Starmer in a good light. It shows that, I mean, he's clearly wealthy compared to most people, but he's certainly far less wealthy than Rishi Sunak. And that will make him seem a little bit more like a normal human being, I think, to a lot of people. But it also shows that he's paid a decent rate of tax. I think he earned $275,000 in the last 2 years and paid $118,000 in tax, which is, around, 30 or 40%, I think. Not sure of the exact percentage, but he's paid a good chunk of it in tax anyway. Whereas Rishi Sunak earned far more and paid a very, comparatively very small amount of tax, I think 21 or 22%. And that's nobody's saying that Rishi Sunak broke the law, but I think this is highlighted, A, that Rishi Sunak is very rich, B, that Keir Starmer is less rich, has paid a lot more tax, which makes him seem more like a decent human being. But it also does highlight the UK tax regime. No one's suggesting that Rishi Sunak broke the law, but what is evident is the fact that the law and the tax regime in this country favours the rich. It means that the income of the rich is taxed far less than the income of the poor. And that's because poorer people, normal people, tend to get their income through doing a job, through a wage, which is taxed at a certain rate, whereas wealthier people, they'll have shares, they'll have investments, they might have an investment fund in the US like Rishi Sunak, they might have income from dividends, from some kind of investment, whether it's property or whether it's something else, or their own company. And those things are taxed at a much lower rate than income from a wage. And I think, understandably, people think that's unfair. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if this starts a debate in the UK about whether that's fair or whether it isn't, and it clearly isn't. And that may result in action from this government to normalise or equalise, tax rates. Or if not, I would be very surprised if it wasn't something that the Labour Party committed to do after the next election.
So do the general public you assess really care about this? Do you think this is likely to become one of the big themes ahead of the next election?
I think people are aware already that Rishi Sunak is incredibly rich because of the story you mentioned about his wife from a year or two ago. So people know he's rich. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to support him. I don't think people mind their politicians being rich, but they want them to be competent. And clearly Rishi Sunak is desperately trying to show that he is competent, which compared to Truss and Johnson, his two predecessors, is is not particularly hard, I'll be honest. But he is attempting to do that, and fair play to him for that. But I think people do very much in the UK, and I'm sure across the world, care whether people play by the rules or not and have a strong sense of fair play. And I think Labour will try and use this to say, look, this is just unfair. And whether Sunak, was obeying all the rules and the laws or not, this is unfair. He's in effect paid far less tax than the rest of us do. So whether this hits Sunak personally, I'm not sure. But I think it will start a debate in the UK about what is taxed and the rates at which things are taxed and what's fair and what isn't fair. And I think that will be a good debate for us to have.
Mark Buckley, senior journalist and political commentator, many thanks for your insights.
Thank you.